What is your path to Dharma?
Welcome, Path to Dharma podcast. Shannon here, and
Welcome
I'm
back.
here with my beautiful daughter, Shay. Just my microphone here. Hopefully, you can hear me. Can you hear me okay, Shay?
Yep. Sure
Well,
can.
we, of course, have been reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you're new to our channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. We love to have you.
Mm-hmm.
We found this mere months ago. And we've been reading it. It's been changing our lives. So what you're seeing us do is read this real time. And we are on the
Yep.
first part one of the fourth canto. What am I trying to say?
Yes. Yep.
Um, and we just finished reading about Lord Shiva. It was mind-blowing. And it was
Oh, so
probably
good.
one of
Go
the favorite
listen.
things I've ever read in my life. I know I keep saying that, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it was one of the favorite things I've ever read. It was so
So good.
good. I mean, you kind of have heard, I've slightly heard that story, but just reading it, mm, it was
Yeah.
everything. And I spent all week just thinking about Shiva. I dreamed about Shiva.
Yeah.
I feel like I was getting signs from Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
Shiva's tremendous and magical and
Oh, yes.
hard to even like put words around, but he's absolutely magnificent. And like
Yeah.
um basically we just saw that whole thing happen where this sacrifice eventually was completed by Doxa. And we are
Yes.
circling now back to the sage Maitreya, because, of
Yes.
course, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we know this story kind of is coming in layers at us.
Yes.
And
Multiple
we,
storylines going
multiple,
on.
multiple, Pariksit is sitting next to the river getting ready to die in the next 7 days. And he's hearing a recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami. And
Yes.
so here we are, deep in, not deep in, a quarter of the way in. This is what we're hearing.
Uh-huh.
And so much more to go. So let's get going. Let's just dive into chapter 8. Anything else we want to say? We're gonna stop announcing Krishna Fan Club and just do it.
Yeah. Just be aware. Just
Ay,
be
ay, ay.
ready.
The universe just sometimes conspires to have you do other things. And that's truly
Yeah.
all it is.
Yeah.
And Krishna's had us on some side missions. I've had some side quests
Well,
going
and
on.
and
How
I'll
about
just
you?
say, I aim to dedicate most of my life to Krishna.
Yeah.
So with that
Good.
aim, Krishna Fan Club will happen when it happens. You know,
Yeah.
I'm right now trying to deeply integrate everything that we've learned and
Yeah.
move through life in this way that's connected to the divine. And
Yeah.
so that is plenty. I love myself. I love you. I love Krishna. Let's say the obeisances.
Let's do it.
Before reciting the Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one must first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact.
Let's go. Ow, ow. Hare
Srimad
Krishna.
Bhagavatam, Fourth Canto, Part 1, Chapter 8.
8.
Dhruva
Chapter 8.
Mahārāja leaves home for the forest. That's where we're at.
Okay.
Start.
Text 1. Text 1. The great sage Maitreya said, the four great Kumara sages headed by Sanaka, as well as Narada, Rubu, Hamsa, Aruni, and Yati, all sons of Brahma, did not live at home, but became Udra, Udrava, Rita, or Nastaka, unadulterated celibates. Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt that other word. Brahmacharis. They
Which it
became
says,
brahmacharis.
which Urdhva, Ratasa, or what? Yeah, that word means those who lift up.
Okay, no, that makes sense. So the four great sages became celibates.
Yes,
Renunciates, ascetics, is that what are all those the
sure.
same kind of? ish?
I'm sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Text 2. Another son of Lord Brahma was Irreligion, whose wife's name was Falsity. From their combination were born two demons named Damda, or bluffing, and Maya, or cheating. Those two demons were taken by a demon named Nirti, who had no children.
Okay, I love this. So this
Yeah,
is
here we go.
we're about to personify a bunch of things, it sounds like.
Uh-huh.
I think this is just one way for us to help us understand all the different
Right.
concepts that are being created right now.
Yep.
Text 3. Maitreya told Vidura, "O great soul, from Damba and Maya were born greed and Nikirti, or cunning. From their combination came children named Krodha, which is anger, and Himsa, which is envy. And from their combination were born Kali, and his sister Darukti, harsh speech." This reminds me of when we saw the scene of like Kali, the personality of Kali in the cow standing on one leg.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember that?
Yep.
And basically is sent to go live in different parts of the world where gold is and where
Yes.
falsity is and
Yep.
where adharma is, basically. So this kind of sounds the same.
Okay, so let me just, so irreligion and falsity combined and made bluffing and cheating. Bluffing
Uh-huh.
and cheating combined to make cunning
Okay.
and greed, who combined to make anger and envy, who combined made Kali and harsh speech.
I
Okay,
mean that sounds right.
yeah. Text 4.
Yeah.
My dear Vidura, I have summarily explained the causes of devastation.
No, you skipped one. You skipped text 4.
Oh,
It's really good too.
okay. O grade, text 4. O greatest of all good men, by the combination of Kali and harsh speech were born children named Mrityu, death, and Biti, fear. From the combination of them came children named Yatana, excessive pain, and Naraya, hell.
Wow. Okay. So this is kind of like that thing where you come to Earth and you have all of the things that are the contrast. So
Hmm.
to have pleasure, you have to have pain. So this is the contrast being born, it sounds like.
Let's
My
see.
dear Vidura, I have summarily explained the causes of devastation. One who hears this description 3 times attains piety and washes the sinful contamination from his soul. Okay, let's count this
Makes
as number
sense.
one.
Yeah.
This is
Yep.
number one. River scoreboard in heaven. Number
Yeah.
one.
Text 6. Maitreya continued, O best of the Kuru dynasty, I shall now describe before you the descendants of Svayambhuva Manu, who was born of a part of plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Manu had 2 sons by his wife, Satarupa, and the names of the sons were Uttānapāda and Priyavrata, because
Mm-hmm.
both of them were descendants of a plenary expansive expansion of Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were very competent to rule the universe, to maintain and protect the citizens.
Mm-hmm. King Uttānapāda had two queens named Sunīti and Suruci. Suruci was much more dear to the king. Sunīti, who had a son named Dhruva, was not his favorite.
Once upon a time, King Uttānapāda was patting the son of Suruci, Uttama, placing him on his lap. Dhruva Mahārāja was also trying to get on the king's lap, but the king did not very much welcome him.
While the child, Dhruva Maharaja, was trying to get on the lap of his father, Suruci, his stepmother, became very envious of the child, and with great pride she began to speak so as to be heard by the king himself.
Queen Suruci told Dhruva Mahārāja, "My dear child, you do not deserve to sit on the throne or on the lap of the king. Surely you are also the son of the king, but because you did not take birth from my womb, you are not qualified to sit on
Ooh.
your father's lap."
My dear child, you are unaware that you were born not of my womb, but of another woman. Therefore, you should know that your attempt is doomed to failure. You are trying to fulfill a desire which is impossible to fulfill.
If you at all desire to rise to the throne of the king, then you have to undergo severe austerities. First of all, you must satisfy the supreme personality of Godhead, Narayan. And then, when you are favored by him because of such worship, you shall have to take your next birth from my womb. That's kind of harsh.
Wow.
That's pretty
Yeah.
harsh, actually.
Yeah.
Like, not in this life, kiddo. Sorry.
Right. The sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, as a snake when struck by a stick breathes very heavily, Dhruva Mahārāja, having been struck by the strong words of his stepmother, began to breathe very heavily because of great anger. When he saw that his father was silent and did not protest, he immediately left the palace and went to his mother.
Yikes. Okay, slightly just sort of looking over the purport a little bit, it
Yeah.
seems as if up until that point, he really did not realize there was any distinction of his father's
Ah,
children between the different mothers. And then this
okay.
happened. So that's obviously his like chief wife.
Yeah.
And his father doesn't stop her from saying, get off of his lap. That's gotta hurt. That hurts.
Yeah.
When Dhruva Maharaja reached his mother, his lips were trembling in anger and he was crying very grievously. Queen Sunīti immediately lifted her son onto her lap, while the palace residents who had heard all the harsh words of Suruci related everything in detail. Thus, Sunīti also became greatly aggrieved.
This incident was unbearable to Suniti's patience. She began to burn as if in a forest fire, and in her grief she became just like a burnt leaf and so lamented. As she remembered the words of her co-wife, her bright lotus-like face filled with tears, and thus she spoke.
She was also breathing very heavily, and she did not know the factual remedy for the painful situation. Not finding any remedy, she said to her son, My dear son, don't wish for anything inauspicious for others. Anyone who inflicts pain upon others suffers himself from that pain. Of course, the wise answer from mother, right?
Yeah.
She feels his pain. She's upset with him, but she knows that the actual right thing to say is actually the answer to this problem is like love.
Yeah.
That's hard to get to, like as a human being. Very hard.
Mm-hmm. Text 18. Suniti said, My dear boy, whatever has been spoken by Suruci is so because of the king, your father, does not consider me his wife or even his maidservant. He feels ashamed to accept me. Therefore, it is a fact that you have taken birth from the womb of an unfortunate woman, and by being fed from her breast, you have grown up.
My dear boy, whatever has been spoken by Suruci, your stepmother, although very harsh to hear, is factual. Therefore, if you desire at all to sit on the same throne as your stepbrother Uttama, then give up your envious attitude and immediately try to execute the instructions of your stepmother. Without further delay, you must engage yourself in worshiping the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, she did say, hey, devote yourself to Narayan and maybe next time you'll get to come from my womb. And so she's like, well, that's what you should do then.
I'm really interested.
This is very interesting answer.
Suniti continued, The Supreme Personality of Godhead is so great that simply by worshipping his lotus feet, your great grandfather, Lord Brahma, acquired the necessary qualifications to create this universe. Although he is unborn and is the chief of all living creatures, he is situated in that exalted post because of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom even great yogis worship by controlling the mind and regulating the life air, prana.
Suniti informed her son, your grandfather, Manu, executed great sacrifices with distribution of charity, and thereby, with unflinching faith and devotion, he worshiped and satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By acting in that way, he achieved the greatest success in material happiness and afterwards achieved liberation, which is impossible to obtain by worshiping the demigods.
Full devotion, worship, surrender to the Supreme.
Seems
Text
like
22.
the go-to answer.
Yeah, right. This is making me think about a lot.
Yeah.
My dear boy, you also should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is very kind to his devotees. Persons seeking liberation from the cycle of birth and death always take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service. Becoming purified by executing your allotted occupation, just situate the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart, and without deviating for a moment, engage always in his service. What a good reminder.
Yeah, no, so good. My dear Dhruva, as far as I am concerned, I do not find anyone who can mitigate your distress but the Supreme
Mm,
Personality of Godhead, whose eyes are like lotus petals. Many demigods, such as Lord Brahma, seek the pleasure of the goddess of fortune, but the goddess of fortune herself, with the lotus flower in her hand, is always ready to render service to the Supreme Lord. Can I just take just a brief sec to call out the word demigod here? That we know that we're just reading the version of the Srimad Bhagavatam that we were given by Krishna, frankly.
yeah.
And some of the translation includes words that imply what feels like it's a different meaning in English, because the word demigod in English generally is referring to somebody who has like one divine parent and one human parent. But
Right.
I don't think that that's how it's being used here.
No.
And that's not how I'm taking it.
Yeah.
So, just we had a recent comment about that, and I just really wanted to clarify that. Thank
Mm.
you for your beautiful comments, everyone, by the way. We are
Hmm.
never offended by them. We really
No.
appreciate them.
Always very
Even when you're
welcome.
correcting us, we're like, please tell us that. There's no one
Yeah.
around us to even say that. So,
Yeah.
anyway, sorry. Sorry, excuse the slight aside there. Back to
No,
the
thank you.
text
Text
20.
24.
Yeah.
The great sage Maitreya continued. The instruction of Dhruva Mahāraja's mother, Sunīti, was actually meant for fulfilling his desired objective. Therefore, after deliberate consideration and with intelligence and fixed determination, he left his father's house.
The great sage Narada overheard this news, and understanding all the activities of Dhruva Maharaja, he was struck with wonder. He approached Dhruva and, touching the boy's head with his all virtuous hand, he spoke as follows. I love when
Narada!
Narada shows up. I love Narada showing up.
How wonderful are the powerful Satriyas! They cannot tolerate even a slight infringement upon their prestige. Just imagine. This boy is only a small child, yet harsh words from his stepmother proved unbearable to him.
The great sage Narada told Dhruva, my dear boy, you are only a little boy whose attachment is to sports and other frivolities. Why are you so affected by words insulting your honor?
My dear Dhruva, if you feel that your sense of honor has been insulted, you still have no cause for dissatisfaction. This kind of dissatisfaction is another feature of the illusory energy. Every living entity is controlled by his previous actions, and therefore there are different varieties of life for enjoying or suffering.
I mean,
Ugh.
Narada always
Ugh.
has a way of putting it in perspective. He
Yes.
always reminds us
Mm.
that this is an illusion. And
Yeah.
actually, the process of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very wonderful. One
Yeah.
who is intelligent should accept that process and be satisfied with whatever comes, favorable or unfavorable, by his supreme will. Ow, ow.
Now you have decided to undertake the mystic process of meditation under the instruction of your mother, just to achieve the mercy of the Lord. But in my opinion, such austerities are not possible for any ordinary man. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Narada Muni continued, after trying this process for many, many births and remaining unattached to material contamination, placing themselves continually in trance and executing many types of austerities, many mystic yogis were unable to find the end of the path of God realization.
For this reason, my dear boy, you should not endeavor for this. It will not be successful. It is better that you go home. When you are grown up by the mercy of the Lord, you will get a chance for these mystic performances. At that time, you may execute this function.
I mean, is this reverse psychology Narada's using on him right now? I wonder.
I don't know.
One should try to keep himself satisfied in any condition of life, whether distress or happiness. which is offered by the supreme will. A person who endures in this way is able to cross over the darkness of nascence very easily.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
Every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate towards him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of the material world.
Dhruva Mahāraja said, "My dear Lord Naradaji, for a person whose heart is disturbed by the material conditions of happiness and distress, whatever you have so kindly explained for attainment of peace of mind is certainly a very good instruction. But as far as I am concerned, I am covered by ignorance, and this kind of philosophy does not touch my
Hmm.
heart."
My dear Lord, I am very imprudent for not accepting your instructions, but this is not my fault. It is due to my having been born in a Kshatriya family. My stepmother Suruci has pierced my heart with her harsh words. Therefore, your valuable instruction does not stand in my heart.
O learned Brahmin, I want to occupy a position more exalted than any yet achieved within the three worlds by anyone, even by my fathers and grandfathers. If you will oblige, kindly advise me of an honest path to follow by which I can achieve the goal of my life. Wow. So Narada's like, it's too hard. And he's like, I'm doing it. That's where I'm like,
Yeah,
I think Narada just said that.
I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
My dear Lord, you are a worthy son of Lord Brahma, and you travel, playing on your musical instrument, the Vinya, for the welfare of the entire universe. You are like the sun, which rotates in the universe for the benefit of all living beings.
The sage Maitreya continued. The great personality Narada Muni, upon hearing the words of Dhruva Maharaja, became very compassionate toward him, and in order to show him his causeless mercy, he gave him the following expert advice. Okay,
Which,
here comes the real advice.
which, by the way, did he not just say you become passionate towards people who are lesser than you? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And now he's
Yes.
becoming
And now
passionate,
he
and
just did it. Yeah.
now he's bringing compassion to.
Right.
Okay. The great sage Narada told Dhruva Maharaj, the instruction given by your mother, Sunīti, to follow the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is just suitable for you. You should therefore completely absorb yourself in the devotional service of the Lord.
He was just testing him a little bit there, I think.
He's like, no, you can't do it. No.
He's like, I'm doing it. And he's like,
Yes.
okay, you ready then? Any person who desires the fruits of the four principles religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and at the end, liberation should engage himself in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For worship of his lotus feet yields the fulfillment of
Hmm.
all of these.
Okay. Yeah, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. My dear boy, I therefore wish all good fortune for you. You should go to the bank of the Yamuna, where there is a virtuous forest named Madhuvana, and there be purified. Just by going there, one draws nearer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who always lives there. We should go there to the Yamuna.
Right?
Yeah.
Text 43. Narada Muni instructed, my dear boy, in the waters of the Yamuna River, which is known as Kalindi, you should take 3 baths daily because the water is very auspicious, sacred, and clear. After bathing, you should perform the necessary regulative principles for Astanga Yoga and then sit down on your asana in a calm and quiet position.
See how asana here is just a seated position?
Yeah, interesting.
After sitting on your seat, practice the 3 kinds of breathing exercises and thus gradually control the life air, the mind, and the senses. Completely free yourself from all material contamination and with great patience begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
There's
I wonder
some
what 3 kinds of breathing
I
exercises.
know, and I was just noticing about the 3 baths. There's always something about touching the water. And I know it's obvious, like water purifies, but
Yeah.
so interesting that they are sent to sacred bodies of water to cleanse, and then they're going to use breath to cleanse. He's
Yeah.
saying, use breath to cleanse the body.
Yeah.
Text 45. The form of the Lord is described herein. Did I skip a page? Oh, no,
Uh,
because you stopped with, then with great patience begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality.
yeah.
Okay, so you've done all that. Then you start to meditate.
Yeah.
The form of the Lord is described herein. The Lord's face is perpetually very beautiful and pleasing in attitude. To the devotees who see him, he appears never to be displeased, and he is always prepared to award benedictions to him. His eyes, his nicely decorated eyebrows, his raised nose, and his broad forehead are all very beautiful. He is more beautiful than all the demigods.
Narada Muni continued, the Lord's form is always youthful. Every limb and every part of his body is properly formed, free from defect. His eyes and lips are pinkish like the rising sun. He was always prepared to give shelter to the surrendered soul, and anyone so fortunate as to look upon him feels all satisfaction. The Lord is always worthy to be the master of the surrendered soul, for he is the ocean of mercy.
So you never see Vishnu or Krishna depicted with a beard. And I was reading something about this today, and that's the whole youthful thing. So
Oh, yeah.
I would love to hear in the comments about this, more about this. Like, is Krishna always 16? Is he always like this youthful kind of like boyish
Right.
um um I don't know, being, I guess
Avatar. Yeah.
avatar is what I'm trying to say. And there's something with that. Anyway, where were we? Text 47.
Yeah.
The Lord is further described as having the mark of Srivatsa, or the sitting place of the goddess of fortune, and his bodily hue is deep bluish. The Lord is a person. He wears a garland of flowers, and he is eternally manifest with four hands, which hold, beginning from the lower left hand, a conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower.
The
Hmm.
entire body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, is decorated. He wears a valuable jeweled valuable jeweled helmet, necklaces, and bracelets. His neck is adorned with a Kastuba jewel, and he is dressed in yellow silk garments.
The Lord is decorated with small golden bells around his waist, and his lotus feet are decorated with golden ankle bells. All his bodily features are very attractive and pleasing to the eyes. He is always peaceful, calm, and quiet, and very pleasing to the eyes and the mind.
Real yogis meditate upon the transcendental Real yogis meditate upon the transcendental form of the Lord as he stands on the world, the lotus of their hearts, the jewel-like nails of his lotus feet glittering.
The Lord is always smiling, and the devotee should constantly see the Lord in this form, as he looks very mercifully toward the devotee. In this way, the meditator should look toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of all benedictions.
One who meditates in this way, concentrating his mind upon the always auspicious form of the Lord, is very soon freed from all material contamination, and he does not come down from meditation upon the Lord.
O son of the king, now I shall speak to you the mantra which is to be chanted with this process of meditation. One who carefully chants this mantra for 7 nights can see the perfect human beings flying in the sky. What?
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is the 12-syllable mantra for worshiping Lord Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We've heard that.
Yes. One should install the physical form of the Lord, and with the chanting of the mantra, one should offer flowers and fruits and other varieties of foodstuffs, exactly according to the rules and regulations prescribed by authorities. But this should be done in the consideration of place, time, and attendant conveniences and inconveniences.
One should worship the Lord by offering pure water, pure flower garlands, fruits, flowers, and vegetables which are available in the forest, or by collecting newly grown grasses,
Mm.
small buds of flowers, or even the skins of trees, and if possible, by offering tulasi leaves, which are very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
See, this is when I need to be writing this down. I'm
Yeah,
coming
right.
back to this.
Right.
Text 56. It is possible to worship a form of the Lord made of physical elements such as earth, water, pulp, wood, and metal. In the forest, one can make a form with no more than earth and water and worship him according to the above principles. Wow. So it is possible
Wow.
to worship a form of the Lord made of physical elements. A devotee who has full control over his self should be very sober and peaceful and must be satisfied simply with eating whatever fruits and vegetables are available in the forest.
I mean, do people make their own?
I have heard something about that. I don't know much about it and I can't really speak to it, but I've heard something about making your own deity of. Yeah,
Interesting. Super interesting.
yeah.
We would love to know if anybody knows anything about that they're willing to share. Oh,
Links,
yeah,
resources.
yeah.
Yeah.
What is this? What are they talking about? Text 57. My dear Dhruva, besides worshiping the deity and chanting the mantra 3 times a day, you should meditate upon the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different incarnations as exhibited by his supreme will and personal potencies.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
One should follow in the footsteps of previous devotees regarding how to worship the Supreme Lord with the prescribed paraphernalia, or one should offer worship within the heart by reciting the mantra to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is non-different from the mantra.
Anyone who thus engages in the devotional service of the Lord seriously and sincerely with his mind, words, and body, and who is fixed in the activities of the prescribed devotional methods, is blessed by the Lord according to his desire. If a devotee desires material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation from the material world, he is awarded these results.
If
Wow.
one is very serious about liberation, he must stick to the process of transcendental loving service, engaging 24 hours a day in the highest stage of ecstasy, and he must certainly be aloof from all activities of sense gratification.
Yeah, that's way
Shoo!
later. That's like way later
Woo!
and like way
I
later
know.
after we've walked off into the Himalayas.
Yeah,
Then.
right.
Okay. When Dhruva Maharaja, the son of the king, was thus advised by the great sage Narada, he circumambulated Narada, his spiritual master, and offered him respectful obeisances. Then he started for Madhuvana, which is always imprinted with the lotus footprints of the Lord Krishna, and which is therefore especially auspicious. Okay, he's
A-
like, I'm off.
yeah. After Dhruva entered Madhuvana forest to execute devotional service, the great sage Narada thought it was wise to go to the king to see how he was faring within the palace. When Narada Muni approached, the king received him properly, offering him due obeisances. After being seated comfortably, Narada began to speak.
I just realized I never picture Narada walking. He's always floating everywhere he goes in my mind for some reason.
Yeah.
Right. The great sage Narada inquired, My dear king, your face appears to be withering up, and you look like you've been thinking of something for a very long time. Why is that? Have you been hampered in following your path of religious rites, economic development, and sense gratification?
The king replied, O best of the Brahmins, I am very much addicted to my wife, and I am so fallen that I have abandoned all merciful behavior, even to my son, who is only 5 years old. Another 5-year-old out there.
Wow.
I have banished him and his mother, even though he is a great soul and a great devotee.
Ah, so he's feeling bad. He feels bad. And I guess I didn't realize he was only 5 when that happens.
Yeah.
But okay, he's feeling something about this. My dear Brahmin, the face of my son was just like a lotus flower. I am thinking of his precarious condition. He's unprotected and he might be very hungry. He might have lain down somewhere in the forest and the wolves might have attacked him to eat his body.
Alas, just see how I was conquered by my wife. Just imagine my cruelty. Out of love and affection, the boy was trying to get up on my lap, but I did not receive him, nor did I even pat him for a moment. Just imagine how
Hmm.
hard-hearted I am.
The great sage Narada replied. My dear king, please do not be aggrieved about your son. He is well protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although you have no actual information of his influence, his reputation is already
Mm,
spread over the world. That's that thing that happens to you that feels terrible and you're like, this is awful, but actually it's for your soul's
some,
evolution and it's actually the most amazing, best thing possible that could have happened. You just don't know it yet.
right. My dear king, your son is very competent. He will perform activities which would be impossible even for great kings and sages. Very soon he will complete his task and come back home. You should know that he will also spread your reputation all over the world.
The great Maitreya continued. The king, Uttānapāda, after being advised by Narada Muni, practically gave up all duties in relation with his kingdom, which was very vast and wide, opulent like the goddess of fortune, and he simply began to think of his son Dhruva.
Elsewhere, Dhruva Mahārāja, having arrived at Madhuvana, took his bath in the river Yamuna and observed fasting in the night with great care and attention. After that, as advised by the great sage Narada, he engaged himself in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
For the first month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only fruits and berries on every third day, only to keep his body and soul together. And in this way, he progressed in his worship of the Supreme Personality
Mm.
of Godhead.
In the second month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only every 6 days, and for his eatables he took dry grass and leaves. Thus he continued his worship.
Wow. In the third month, he drank water only every 9 days. Thus, he remained completely in trance and worshiped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is adored by selected verses.
Oh my gosh, I could only imagine you would
Wow.
definitely be in trance, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the fourth month, Dhruva Maharaj became a complete master of his breathing exercise, and thus he inhaled air only every 12th day.
Wow.
In this way, he became completely fixed in his position and worshiped the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, I was just listening to this thing Yogananda was saying about how the body actually doesn't need food. We are addicted to food.
Yeah.
Krishna talks about how he's the fire in the belly that digests the food. And actually, our bodies can be sustained on full universe energy. It's just that we get addicted to it. We get stuck in the material plane and we
Right,
think we need food and water and air. Turns out, as Dhruva figures out, he's not even eating, he's only breathing once every 12 days.
right.
That's wild.
Text
Like
76.
76.
It's you.
By the fifth month, Maharaja Dhruva, the son of the king, had controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand on only one leg, just as a column stands, without motion, and concentrate his mind fully on the Parabrahman. Okay, now I'm feeling like, can you even pray for 15 minutes without your mind wandering?
Right. Exactly.
This is how far away we are from this.
Something to look at.
Right.
He completely controlled his senses and their objects, and in this way he fixed his mind, without diversion to anything else, upon the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
When Dhruva Maharaj thus captured the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the refuge of the total material creation and who is the master of all living entities, the three worlds began to tremble.
So he no longer is like, oh, what am I going to eat for lunch? No,
Yeah.
he's past that. He already did the berries.
Yeah.
He's no longer like, oh, what drink am I going to? I'm
Yeah.
thirsty.
Past that.
No, he's past that. No longer is he like, oh,
Mm-mm.
what breath work am I going to
Yeah.
do? He's like, no, only every 12 days.
Right.
Then he's like, no longer do I need to stand even on both legs.
Right. I only need one of these legs to stand by.
I only need one of these.
Wow.
Text 79. As Dhruva Maharaj, the king's son, kept himself steadily standing on one leg, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth, just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the bottom left and right with his every step.
Is he only on his toe now? When
Well, at least the pressure of his big toe from standing on the one leg.
when Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Viṣṇu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up, and all the great demigods and in all the planetary systems felt suffocated, and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Wow. Okay, this is some concentration.
Yeah.
Wow.
And is he still only 5?
He's 5.5 now.
Text 81. The demigod said, Dear Lord, you are the refuge of all living, of all moving and non-moving living entities. We feel all living entities to be suffocating, their breathing process choked up. We have never experienced such a thing. Since you're the ultimate shelter of all surrendered souls, we have therefore approached you. Kindly save us from this danger.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, My dear demigods, do not be perturbed by this. It is due to the severe austerity and full determination of the son of King Uttānapāda, who is now fully absorbed in thought of me. He has obstructed the universal breathing process. You can safely return to your respective homes. I shall stop this boy in his severe acts of austerities, and you will be saved from this situation. He held the breath for the whole universe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, thus ends. Thus ends
Thus
the chapter.
ends the chapter. Okay, well, wow. That was an epic feat by yet another small and humble human that
Yeah.
turns out to be superhuman
Yeah.
just by virtue of faith and determination of willpower. And once again left feeling like I have a really long way to go.
Work is to be done, honey. Work is to be done. We're out here in the Kali Yuga doing our best.
Ay, ay, ay. But I
Trying.
hear
Sometimes it takes me, sometimes it literally takes me minutes, hours to even just maintain coming back to a place where I can even focus my mind.
it's true,
So,
but here in the Kali Yuga, we can just call out and have the Lord
yes,
appear to us. And it does feel that way when you do it with all your
yeah,
heart
it
and soul,
does.
especially
It
in
does.
true devotion. He shows up. And I'll just say that. Let me testify right now. I felt it.
Yeah.
So,
We
okay,
love you, Krishna.
we love you, Krishna. We're so grateful. We're so grateful. And I'm gonna just take this chapter in a little bit. We're gonna
Yeah.
stop here. It's kind of late night for us. Just came from yoga class right before this. Shay's a beautiful yoga teacher. And so this feels like a good place to end tonight. So thank you so much for watching and listening and commenting and
Yes.
educating us and worshiping with us. And we just really can't even say how much we appreciate it. It's
Mm.
really truly been such a beautiful experience reading this with you, Shay, and with you, dear watcher viewer. So
We're halfway through the fourth canto, part 1.
yeah,
So stay tuned for the next ones. We
stay
love ya.
tuned.
Hare
Healing,
Krishna,
love,
Hare
and blessing
Krishna,
to you.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna.